I believe Sejuani, very aggressive, but FPX is hovering something we've never seen in this split so far. Or Rengar, are they going to lock that in? Surely not, because there's a reason why people don't play Rengar. Oh my god. Sorry, I got too excited because we've been Hardstuck's 13.1 patch for way too long. So once I ever see a champion like that, I'm just like, yes, please do it.
I know, you want to get out of this lure. I agree as well, but hovers the bait. I can get behind those feels. Look, it is the Sedge in the end. I'm sorry, it's a little bit boring. Bye on the other side. Misfortune, though, a bit of a different direction, as we do get our second AD support coming through, but not in the direction you'd expect with Jhin on the other side. 2v2's a set.
Yeah, the bot laners and jungle have been picked for this first banning phase. That means that all the focus for these rest of the bans is going to go towards that top and mid lane. But I specifically want to highlight the mid lane matchup we have today. Scout, one of the biggest champion pools we've seen so far in this spring split. I believe 11 champions, and a lot of his champions are actually AD based. So if Tarzan gets a really good mid jungle duo with Scout for this game 1, then I'm afraid they're just going to take over the map, because we already see how aggressive Tarzan is in those early games, and if he is able to play towards LP on this Varus, which has so much range, then that is a very viable win con for them.
But I'll take a step back because, again, you mentioned Scout, and I think it's crucial to note that his Ryze is still up and available. Most played here, best champion of the split. After that, as you said, a lot of melee champions that fly through. This will be a great takeaway from Care, considering that this man is not the biggest Ryze player, but taking it away from Scout would be a much better priority.
But Casson has been banned from the side of LNG, so that's a really good ban. FPX's entire team comp is lacking a bit of damage, though. We see a lot of scaling from them so far, so they really need to make it up with that top lane champion. Phoenix, however, only played 2 games of the Cassante so far, so I'm wondering if he has a champion like the Renekton, or perhaps even a Camille up his sleeve to make up the lack of early damage that FPX is needing.
He plays a bit of Gnar. Phoenix historically has just been a typical Gnar player. This would be blind, as you said, so I wonder how Phoenix would react, as Zika would be throwing the wrench, considering there is no Jax, there's only Camille, and we've seen Phoenix's Camille a little bit. Hasn't been the best in the league. It definitely would be throwing a haymaker here for game 1.
Come on, Phoenix. What are you going to pick? I mean, Renekton is a very viable response. It does make up for that lack of early engage that they so desperately need. Also links up extremely well with Hacker on the Sejuani. I would love for them to just pick the Renekton right here. But this lane matchup, it is very skill dependent. I think once Renekton fails to find that lead in the early game, then Zika can realistically just take over the entire game through his split pushing.
Side laning you mentioned, but pushing a bit of scaling there as well. Kitty on the other side for FPX. You mentioned that Phoenix closes out the engage here. I was a little bit more curious about how some of these semi-globals work, right? Like Curtain Call, Realm Warp as well. Heimerdinger goes across the screen, I guess, in some regard. Walk me through how FPX want to operate this comp.
Yeah, I mean, with the Jhin and Heimerdinger being locked in, they are a very safe duo when it comes to the mid game once the bottom tier 1 has been broken off. And obviously you want to be scaling alongside the Ryze and hoping that not too much action happens. You do have the initial engage. Then LNG's team composition is looking very, very potent.
Closing that gap in. I'll be keeping an eye on how they pace themselves going into this game 1, Kitty, because as we move on to Summoner's Rift, LNG look to hold their top spot. They can do exactly that with a win here for week number 5. Now, remember, later on, we do have EDG versus TES, but LNG with the 2-0 would be at a plus 10 game differential. Unbeatable here, where the top esports and EDG come away with a win in either side. Jayo's come out in LNG's home arena. The support is there. We get a bit of a Prage as well. The memes on point today as usual.
Oh, I just love the memes that the fans bring in the audience. It's so cute and wholesome. But we already saw a bit of brawling in the bottom 3v3, trying to get that ward secured. But Tiltil on this Heimerdinger as his debut champion. I mean, a lot of lane presence since the Heimerdinger already planted his first tower in that bush that's closer towards LNG.
Just going to look across the runes here. Nothing really out of the ordinary as usual. Lethal tempo coming through from LP, so we're going to get on hit here for the Varus. This is Comet MF. I mean, AP again. Good poke within the lane as Zika is trying to disrupt and find out what's going on. As Phoenix walks in, Hacker not going to be approaching that territory either, and this 1v1 is just going to be about bruising, getting the control, and Zika does get an extra vital, and so Venus walks out of the rush at half HP.
Wow, I mean, Phoenix, I believe, was trying to look for perhaps a skirmish onto Hacker if he was solo starting the red buff. A lot of fighting happening in this bottom lane already. The heal does get burned from Lwx, but they're just trying to get the wave in. I think he got a bit scared. They didn't have enough damage, and LNG coming into this game on double cleanse bot lane.
Yeah, really interesting. As you mentioned, double cleanse is not something we see all the time. Maybe Kitty worried about, you know, getting that ulti off. Worried about the tons of CC that comes from FPX, but out of support, I think that's a new one for me.
I mean, look, if Hung is able to pull it off, then support lives matter too, and that's why he went with the cleanse. Hacker is trying to look for a very early gank onto Zika here with the wave pushed in. He does have the flash available, so...
Venus going to hit level 2 as well. Zika might have 2, but he's going to have to burn that summoner, as you mentioned. It's matched up. He won't even get a chance. Venus pulls the trigger before he can respond, and first blood goes over to Hacker.
Zika just playing way too aggressive in this early game. They even spotted that Hacker was starting the Raptors earlier on into the game, so it was a pathing from the red buff. Maybe he wasn't able to detect Sejuani going topside. He did have that ward available. Bit of greed from Zika, but it is still manageable. However, this 1v1 when it comes to the top lane, if you bleed too much, then the Renekton is just going to take over these 5v5 team comps.
Care just getting a bit of a face from it from Azir as I remember that matchup going a little bit differently, Kitty. Care is now going to have to TP back in, it looks like, or at least be careful, as Tarzan was already on the invade. This is a dive, but Care is in front of the turret already. His Scout's also taking a turret shot, and it just ends there.
Tarzan was looking on a dive with 3 minions in that tier 1 tower. I mean, obviously didn't work, but Hacker looking for more. They do have the summoners available.
As you said, one flash burn, here comes another. Hacker gets a double deadly flourish dodge, but LP dead. Chocho a beast, using both summoners to get the kill.
You know what would have been nice, Hysterics? A heal. The movement speed from the heal and a bit of health from that as well. We did see Hung trying to block the Sejuani engage, although they just dropped health way too fast, and Tutu with an amazing flash E as an engage just got LP as that first blood, and the first blood does go into Heimerdinger's pocket, so he's going to get his items online extremely fast, where, look, I do see Heimerdinger being a really annoying pest if he does get those items online, because you just get so much priority over these early objectives, and you shred these major objectives as well.
As you said, I mean, that kill going over now, 2 for FPX, a 1k gold lead as well. Top side now bottom. This early lane going really well. And Kitty, you talked about Care kind of moving to, you know, some of these lanes as well, using that Realm Warp. But one thing we didn't mention is that an early lead for FPX, this comp will just thrive. And forget the side lane Fiora, you know, win con, when you have a Ryze that can move to overfed side lanes.
Yeah, both team comps do have scaling side lanes, but I just prefer FPX's one because they have that 5v5 security of the Renekton and Sejuani being able to initiate or opt into winning team fights. And like I've been saying, fairness on this Renekton, once he starts making Zika bleed in this top lane, I don't think the Fiora is able to attend these team fights and offer as much as a Renekton when he does have the flash available.
Hacker's going to be trying to do exactly that, but I think timing's not on his side. Zika, though, cancelling the back. That wave pushing in, he doesn't want to miss out, but Hacker's about to roll in. This Arctic Assault needs to connect, and even without a flash, goes melee, gets the summoner out. They're waiting for the riposte. Hacker hasn't hit him yet. Turret aggro is taken by Phoenix if it's only one. Hacker was being so patient, but Phoenix, a second turret shot makes it a little bit harder, with the wave bouncing back as well.
A pretty good dance from Zika. Now he is forced to back unless he greeds once again, but Hacker looking for more. This synergy out of the Renekton and Sejuani is just way too strong, especially when you do trade the flash early on into the game. Tarzan is going to respond with getting that first dragon early on into the game. Perhaps he can look for something, but a lot of action from Hacker already, and I like this aggression from FPX.
And let's be real, like, you know, the trade-off from Tarzan is beneficial to some degree because it's about 2-3 camps now as Tarzan goes back to his own jungle, sees Hacker here, but Hacker doesn't have Smite available. They don't know whether Tarzan has his own as Wolves. Honestly, sometimes I just don't know. Like, the patience, the aggro pull all the way up towards blue buff. And Tarzan just has to sit there and wait until they come back. But Kitty, As I was saying, there is a CS lead for Tarzan, worth considering as he faster approaches his level 6.
Yeah, and we also see that LP is coming in with the on-hit Varus build with his lethal tempo, and of course opting into the Immortal Shield bow as his mythic. And that is a reason because of Renekton and Sejuani being the hands of FPX this time around. It just provides that consistent damage in these team fights when you already have the poke from the AP MF support and of course Scout on this Azir. So as long as LP plays his positions correctly in these team fights, I see this Varus popping up as well.
Again, LP has been a reliable source of damage from LNG so far. As I'm going to have to pause on that because Phoenix continues to zone away Zika in the top side of the map. 10 CS lead up here as well. When I say as well, I mean that everyone on FPX actually kind of down on farm at the moment. Kitty, this bot lane wave is crashing in. Lwx going to be down 5 to 10 CS. Mid, Care's down 10 CS. And the only one who's leading, even including jungle, is Phoenix on this Croc.
How is LWX a bit behind in CS? Because we know that LP fell for first blood and he obviously had to miss at least one wave of tempo since the wave has been pushed in, but like you've been highlighting, very... Ooh, the ulti comes out. I don't know if that's going to result in too much.
No, Chocho without his own, so maybe LP was just angling for a bruising as Hacker is down the bottom side but doesn't show himself yet. Tarzan, speaker levels, is only level 5. Surprising that Hacker is down, but I guess the champion experience makes a difference. Curtain Call comes through, LP flashes away, this time having the summoner, but Hung is just left to his wayside. Kitty, heal wouldn't have saved it there, but maybe Barrier would have. I don't know.
Maybe Barry would have, Flash could have as well. Hung is just being pretty greedy with his summoner spell and holding on to it, but that does mean a third kill going towards FPX for this early game. Hacker, a very pleasant surprise, extremely active in this early game. I mean, even LWX having that ultimate available just secures a kill onto the bot lane of LNG, and now Care having the ultimate available, they are able to make these side lane plays just so much more scary.
Look at the movement here as well. Hung's going to move up to potentially contest or at least help with the mid push. As Chocho is doing the same thing, now coming in towards his Herald. It's being slow hit for the time being as Hacker and Care just dart around looking for Tarzan. That Vault Break is going to be utilized. However, the patience meter, not very good. At 3k, we're still angling around. LP just used his ulti. It's not up available. Zika is in the middle of 3. Grand Challenge not available either. He's already procced it rather. Onto Phoenix, needs one more. Getting the kill would get the heal, but Phoenix heals up. Thanks so much to Q. FPX are forced out for the time being with LNG brute forcing themselves right into River. But Kitty, I don't know if it's over. They're in a choke. Hung is going to poke them out as yet again FPX move on in. Quick smarts they have to be with the eye exposed. The smite as well. That TP from Zika. He might be late to the party as again, we're just dancing around this thing. Zika, as he flies over, will be spotted out by Phoenix. They're being patient, but now Hacker's just dead. FPX might have thrown away some of that early lead with a kill and the Herald going over to Tarzan.
That was a very long fight, Hysterics. I mean, if you just looked at the second half of that fight where Zika got forced out from getting poked down too low, Phoenix was just sitting in the top lane bush. The fight was just extremely split for the side of FPX, and Hacker fell as a result of that because he was the only one in the Herald pool. Solo kill?
Almost. Hug flashes away. I think he just would have been dead.
I mean, look, let's do a cleanse counter for Hung today. How about that? Well, of course, we're gonna get a replay of this. A really good pick onto the top side of LNG, but this choke was just so scary because you do have the MF and Varus available, where the MF does zone off 2 people. They just miss out by a little bit trying to execute Phoenix here. Zika does TP back into the fight, but just look at Phoenix. He is just sitting in that bush for a good 30 seconds while Hacker just dies to the Varus ultimate as he gets focused down by LNG. And this entire fight from FPX was just so messy. And even in the end, the Herald does go towards the side of LNG when Fiora was forced out.
Look, Zika coming back in applies a bit more pressure, but LNG punishing the mistake of Hacker means that they are able to catch up with some of that gold. It's still 1k in the lead here for FPX as they now subdue the Dragon, but it will make it 1 apiece. And Kitty, at the start of the game, you talked a little bit about, scaling, but also about this Azir, the Varus, right? Even Zika in side lanes. We do know that they're going to be reliable in those said side lanes if they're able to scurry the game out. So right now, it does feel like a slower early game despite FPX trying to brute force some of these kills.
Scout already has his Leandries available in his item slots. I mean, he is just CSing like a beast up against his Ryze, and when it does come to this matchup in particular, I think the Azir offers a lot more in terms of damage, but Care is able to just play for those side lanes. I just cast a curse at this. I'm talking about Scout, he does that in front of me, but it's okay. Hacker trying to look for something else here, maybe just trying to cool down Scout from his initial play.
Unlucky. You can see, you know, a couple of pixels away maybe for Scout to find that ulti, and Care just chills it out. So no flash burn. Instead, Scout with that old timer, not going to be the longest in the world as Tarzan continues to hover around. But here at 12 minutes into the game, now he has to find another option as topside was promising, but Phoenix is still a Renekton with ulti. Still deadly as DPS in this lane. And Tarzan just thinks, well, I might have to just come back mid and try and get an ult out onto Care.
No major objectives available on the map just quite yet, but a very quiet performance from Tarzan in this early game, especially on a champion like Vi. I was expecting him to just invade as the Vi, just consistently in Hacker's jungle, but we only saw that once, but he even kind of changed his direction and decided to gank mid instead, while Hacker was just getting so much done for the side of Phoenix, while he is just having a 10 CS lead in that top lane.
Yeah, again, like Hacker has been the bigger ganker out of the two. It was top, then it was bot straight away, and Hacker got his bottom lane in a couple of kills there too. I mean, after the last fight we saw it was traded off, and FPX with 3 kills in this early game. Lwx now with Gale Force down there too. Kind of worth mentioning that the items are also being matched by LNG. We do have the Kempung Chainsword here for Tarzan. The common first item is now thinking about going for Phoenix over the wall. Phoenix going to be jumping back in. Tarzan's ankle's great, and yeah, that summoner being down is huge as Tarzan now appears. Phoenix locked up against the wall. The grand challenge is here, and all it will take is one more as Tarzan takes away the kill credit.
Finally, something good going towards the side of LNG, but Hacker trying to make a cross-map play here. Double cleanse available for the bottom lane of LNG. It's looking a bit tough unless Care comes over with that realm orb as well. So they're trying to get this wave pushed in and make something happen in that bottom side.
Oh, he's got it. He doesn't miss this time around. The flash on in as well. And there you go. Hunt's ulti contributes as chain of arrows, rather the hail of arrows to fly from LP. Under turret is ambitious as Tarzan almost dies with a turret shot. But LNG come away with a successful kill.
That was a really perfectly executed combination from Scout. I mean, he gets the pick onto Care, even burning the flash from the Ryze, and it was just all done from there. But I think the numbers advantage of LNG was just a main reason of why they won that skirmish. We saw that hung on this MF support. We know that her passive, I believe it's called Strut, she just moves a lot faster when she isn't in combat, so she will be rotating a lot faster compared to Chio on this Heimerdinger. But looking at the replay, Care just trying to get the wave and caught off guard, and Scout just gets the ultimate online as well, where Tarzan is able to follow up. He does cancel zone Q, but with Hung being there and able to provide the lack of damage, they just get Care and execute him. Tarzan looking a bit more here. I was a bit scared for him. Luckily, he lived on one though.
Yeah, lucky the right word. I think at the end of that is Tarzan will save his life at the time being, but sets up Scout here. First kill going over to the mid laner of LNG, and we're already idolizing his CS lead, but he's now almost up 30 in this lane. Blue buff's going to make it much worse. That second item well and truly on the way before Care's been able to get that Rod of Ages. So Scout definitely showing the difference here between mids, as Scout is like a veteran of the league. He's also an LPL resident by now, by the way. Where Care is only his second year of play. Yeah.
I think I saw an interview from Scout and Tarzan, and their Chinese is getting extremely good. But yeah, bringing it back to the game, I think FPX in this current game state, we haven't seen too much skirmishing from the Sejuani and Ryze combo, where I think with the lead that you produced for Phoenix, once the kills went into his pockets, you should be leaning towards more of the top side. Just try to get some more kills in this early game, because once the Fiora gets online or survives the early game and stops the bleeding, then none of your champions can really match her when it comes to the 1v1 later in this game.
Maybe Tarzan's going to set that further up then, because he's getting second Herald while losing the bottom side of his jungle. Lwx stealing away this red buff, and that's completely free as Hacker's the only one showing for the time being. Chocho moves in as well, but Herald's just taken by LNG as FPX try to get a counter play through mid. push up to the wave is all they can do right now. As the gold lead still maintained by LNG, but this strange early game, this slower early game, I should say. It's funny that we're once again talking about LNG just chilling out, because this is what this team does. No matter what the composition, it feels like LNG are just really good at holding their own pace of play. And they're not really like an LPL team. In fact, Kitty, I'd say this is like one of the most LCK teams we have this split.
Yeah, I mean, Scout definitely looking like a traditional Korean mid laner where he is just getting gold and a ton of CS into his pockets. 187, sorry. It is the first game of the... I got there. Don't do maths on broadcast, guys. This is terrible. 800 CS. I don't care anymore. He's getting this tier 2 tower and he's not getting stopped. I mean, how is Scout just freely... side laning on this Azir when you had the Sejuani and you had the Realm Orb? I think this is a bit illegal from Scout.
Yeah, it really is. Again, the authorities should be going after him because Care, as you said, that Realm Orb hasn't been utilized yet in this game. And this was FPX taking a counter pick away from Scout, but they haven't utilized it as well as Scout or anywhere near in the ballpark of someone like him or Doinby. Really big shame to see is, I just realized talking about Doinby, looking at his two former old organizations, his championship one, and he's one that he almost went to Worlds with last year. But yeah, this ain't Doinby's Ryze, that's for sure. His Care is just sitting in the sideline for the time being, but is not catching up to that massive lead. That Scout is now furthered, thanks to Herald, thanks to now a 2,000 gold lead that's kind of come out of the blue.
I think this is the wise words of Doinby. He was like, Ryze in this current meta, if you just cover up the ID plates, then all the Ryzes just look the exact same because he's such a low-skilled mechanical champion. But I'm not too sure because we missed Doinby extremely much on the broadcast, of course. But he's having kids, so that's huge congratulations to him. No major objectives on the map just quite yet, but a lot of Merc treads for both sides of the team. I mean, even Scal and Care are going towards the Merc tread, so not as much damage as expected, so it's really going to be dependent on the ADCs in these team fights. But like we've been seeing, LP having the Flash and Cleanse available is going to have a lot more survivability compared to LWX.
Yeah, again, double cleanse we mentioned earlier on, but I like the Merc Tread point because we also mentioned that FPX has a lot of CC follow-up, a lot of chain with these side lanes as well. Nice to see is LNG are committing a teleport to the top side. They're saying we want this turret, and Scout's just going to walk up, all for the sake of getting inner in the top side, while there's no response from FPX as of yet.
We saw the hacker did throw out his Sejuani ultimate, trying to force a 3v4 fight in this mid lane, but just nothing in this mid game. I mean, we saw a lot of aggression in the early game, but something might be happening here.
Never mind, it's just a deadly flourish. Again, those Merc Treads paying off, so LNG aren't caught out. There's no other objective here, Kitty, as we look at what the ulti was.
Flash.
Oh my god,
out.
Well, at least we got to see the summoners used together.
It's okay. Well, we already see that Hacker is so desperately trying to force something in this mid lane. However, LNG just playing extremely disciplined and just letting the play die so they don't get anything in return, while LNG, on the other hand, gets that tier 2 tower in the top lane, and this Fiora is going to swap to the bottom lane and start doing the exact same thing.
Just look again, the CS lead's massive, and even in fact, in the other solo laner of LNG, Zika's up now. Phoenix was controlling the whole lane, but the fact that Zika survived for so long and that restraint we saw at the early turret dive, it's just made this game look pretty LNG favored with a 3k gold lead. Now at 20 minutes when Baron spawned, Vision's clearing out a little bit as well as the game continues to be chill. And Kitty, it's sad to see in the LPL somewhat, but it's also nice to see because I think when LNG were going up against NIP, they lost some of that identity that we talk so much about on the LPL broadcast. And this is kind of reinstating that they are, again, a controlled team that knows that they had the scaling edge here in this first game.
Yeah, I think this week 5 is a really big redeeming week for a lot of these top teams. We see JDG, we see Weibo, and of course now LNG just finding their form again from a pretty sloppy week 4. I think all of these teams just went through something, but it's nice to see that LNG is playing towards their team identity again, which is a slower paced early game, and then really perfecting their execution on these late scaling champions like the Fiora and the Azir in this instance.
Well, Scout's getting closer and closer towards it. Second item now picked up with a blasting one. Look at the Cosmic Insight fly through. And Zika threatening the 1v1. Venus went in under turret as his tier 1 is being savagely protected. But for now, Zika's okay being here because Kitty, with all that Baron dancing around the purple worm up in the top side, he's got TP to match. Fitness might have it as well, but Zika's definitely getting to the point of being quite a threat, as he might even back away before joining in, if he even needs to, right, with 20 seconds on drag.
He is definitely going to be TPing to this bottom lane play, but Phoenix has to do the exact same. A bit behind, however. I think he will be like 30 seconds too late to the fight. So it will be a 4v5 initially for LNG, and they are able to secure the vision control for this Baron. I mean, for this Dragon, but if FPX wants to, I think they can flip the Baron. I mean, they don't have any vision from the side of LNG, and you do have the Ryze and Heimerdinger available, so it might be a bit sneaky, but doable at least.
I just love the fact that Zika's pushing in the side lane while LNG set up for this specific Dragon's Realm Warp is there, but it didn't reach the pit, and it was in LNG's sight, and they're like, well, maybe we can't. Like, what was that?
What was that? I mean, I even planned out the entire plan, like, yes, go onto Baron sneakily. I mean, they realm up in front of LNG's face. They don't even reach the Baron pit, and they killed the play in the very end. So that's just a wasted realm warp, and the entire vision going towards the side of LNG does mean the second Dragon's going to get picked up.
For free.
For free.
That was the second realm warp, I think, in this game. And holy criminy, they have not been great. So, again, 30 CS against mid laners. Scout is just chilling. Probably saying he's the better mid laner this game. I think the audience would agree. And we are just narrowly moving our way to a very solid mid game here, with FPX now down, or equal to rather, in 2 Dragons. But Kitty, that means we're not going to have an Elder for at least, what, 10, 11, 12 minutes at this point. Until we actually, 15, because you have to get 2 more Dragons. So Elder is about a couple of years away. At least a 39-minute game.
Years away, though. I think Zika on this Fiora, he is going to be taking down these inhibitors very, very soon. Already a 2-level lead, but they are looking for a pick onto Kehi.
And I think they might find that the run what was used before to get into the Baron pit. He now has none. He'll survive for so long until he's launched back. A kill over to Zika too. Everybody gets one.
Phoenix does have the TP available though, so if LNG does force this Baron, I mean, this is your only way to come back into the game. This is the Baron, but you have Hacker's Smite available, so if they are able to deny this, Phoenix is TPing into the back. They can look for a flank realistically onto the backside of LNG.
Phoenix does TP in. They got the teleport. They can disengage now if they like, but they're going to take it down. Hacker doesn't have the vision in pit as Tarzan's ready to turn it around at 2.5k. Tarzan is going to end up staying in the pit because Smite comes through, Baron comes through, and all the negation of FPX getting anywhere near is a roaring success for LNG. Is getting caught out in movement. Almost happens out, but Hung is going to be blocked by Tarzan. Move a little bit, and Tarzan just absorbs it all for his brother.
Actually, I'm not gonna say it, but FPX, I think they could have just contested the Baron. I mean, you had the Jin's Curtain Call to provide that vision. I know that Toto didn't have any wards available, but with that vision of provided from LWX's ultimate, Hacker having the flash and smite available, that was realistically just a 50-50 flip, but we already see a lot of hesitation from FPX. I mean, Kedge is backing on vision here. Tarzan gets a really nice pick onto the mid lane of FPX Care, and he just dies for free. Where even Scout TPs for this play because they're committed to getting a Baron after this, which is exactly what they do. I mean, Toto just having the E, not enough as a little Heimerdinger. But I think once this Baron is in the hands of LNG, their sieging power with the Fiora and Azir is just way too strong now.
He's almost got 3 items. This is just bonanza right now. It's Tarzan, speaking of which, decides to take a little journey over the wall. But I thought today was going to be a happy day, you know, talking about Chocho's debut in FPX. But instead, we're talking about LNG's core mid laner who joined in this split, just taking over slowly but surely. With this Baron buff, the same can be said as Azir Sun turret set up in the inner space that's now been left as a wreckage. And LNG taking yet another in the bottom side, or assaulting on 2 front, Kitty. Like, they try to force it. As you say, the ulti out. Scout, though, is still alive. Re-engage there, and the ulti that Hung's not going to be able to do too much with. Hung should be able to zone out, but Tarzan cues away. Deadly Flourish, he survives somehow, some way. That is also criminal from LNG.
That is every ability from the side of FPX, and they get a 0 for nothing trade. This is terrible being the map position of FPX. I mean, that was your only angle to really come back into the game, even though Baron is in the hands of LNG. But just look at the vision control that LNG has on all sides of this map. Hung is just walking up and pressing E for free, and he's an MF.
Because he has no fear of anyone right now. As you saw all damage Porter, you hit the nail on the head that everything was burnt in this replay, all to kill Scout, who was sticking around for too long.
I mean, they do flash in, Care commits everything, LWS Gale forces in, but that doesn't even land, and Tarzan swaps his life to really save Scout, but even Tarzan doesn't die. They just don't have enough damage. The Q doesn't get there either, and the Varus misses, but Tarzan with a really slick sidestep onto this Jhin W just survives on a sliver of health, but the Dragon is going to be spawning in 30 seconds, and FPX don't really have a way of walking in.
And Hung in that last play as well, just the movement from him to dodge away, or at least cover Tarzan from the deadly flourish. Hitboxes be damned. Hung, again, just stepping up when he needs to, it seems. As you nailed in the Dragon coming up in about 15 seconds, Kitty. It's a 7,000 gold lead, though, that FPX have to run into. And the fact that LNG is so confident now burning the TP doesn't fill me with much hope, considering that FPX aren't all here yet. Hacker went in early. Deadly Flourish knocks down Tarzan, but he's a tank. It hurts so much. Zika comes in, gets a grand challenge. Now blocking the curtain, calls the next job, as this whole LNG roster are so healthy. But Scout flies through the Emperor's Divide glide, and oh, that's an override of FPX's core mental well-being in game one. Pack it in, boys. This one's done.
This one's most likely done, and it is going to be a win for the side of LNG. I mean, I just don't see FPX winning any of these 5v5s, even with Hacker getting caught early. We didn't see Fairness in the backline at all. I was just focusing on him because I wanted that flank from the Renekton. He had the flash available, but he just wasn't finding these angles and committing to the flash at all, and that was the third Dragon. I mean, the game isn't going to get any easier, and you just need to commit as the Sejuani and Renekton when it does come to these team fights. Of course, Hacker getting in there a bit too early. All the abilities spent onto the Sejuani, and he dies as a result. I mean, just look at Fairness. He's just on the side, popping that ultimate as well. Having the flash available, this choke is huge for Renekton to engage on, getting so much damage onto the backline of LNG, but he's just too scared, and this fight just turned into a 3v5 for FPX.
Again, Venus is someone who last split I didn't have much faith in. And yeah, Venus is dead, just as I speak about Venus not being my all-time favorite player. He falls into the dirt for his second death, and it has been such a quiet game where a jungle gate up to the top side as LNG managed to get their Vi away. As this Renekton's been having a good lane, but nothing done with it. No team fights, no skirmishes here, Kitty. FPX have just been kind of asleep at the wheel, and I feel like as well Care on this Ryze, another part to blame where Realm Warps have just not been really all that innovative.
Yeah, absolutely no side lane plays coming out of FPX for this game one, but Baron is spawning in 32 seconds, and I'm afraid if the second Baron goes towards the side of LNG, your base is just going to get swarmed as all your tier 2 towers are down on the map.
Well, now into the enemy jungle they sit because Baron's up in 20 seconds, and that would help put the nail in the coffin. Hacker's approaching River, or at least trying to. His Care now teleports in, but look at the damage. Scout didn't even fully commit to that, as that's the Heimerdinger ult as well. Chocho launches out, but nothing's found, and Scout just gains another level, gains more confidence. LNG just running it down mid. FPX have no choice but to run and cower away as LNG have a date with this big, long, strange animal in the Baron pit, also known as the Baron, which ironically is something else backwards. Hacker, yeah, Bazza was a good event in OCE. As now Hacker's just being launched at by Zika. Look at the true damage.
Zika's 1v3 up here.
Not one, not two, but Kitty says it. 3 people riposte from the Culver Beak and the Ruthless Predator as Chains of Corruption. Hacker for the steal. The 50-50. Oh my god, it comes down to 47, but he can't get it now. Scout glide, Emperor's Divide. Time to say bye-bye to FPX in game number 1.
very clean triple kill going into quadra kill going into the hands of Scout for this game one. And I mean, just with how well LNG was able to defuse the engages from FPX Hacker, they were just able to close out this game with a perfectly executed late game. I mean, this entire top side, only one death. I mean, realistically, only Hung has 2 deaths. Even LP just sitting on 1 as well. It is almost a pretty perfect game out of LNG, and I've been saying this for a very long time that LNG, they need to guarantee every single win up against these middle to bottom tier teams because their schedule isn't going to get any easier.
And while it's not the end of the game here, I mean, game 1, ladies and gentlemen, just tuck it away. It's still done. But as you said, you know, LNG had to have a good showing, and I think we can say this, even though it's a little bit janky, it's still LNG in a fine pace.
Yeah, look, you're not going to be winning these 5v5s. He died on such low HP. That was a really big shame, but good target selection from LNG. Decided to kill the jungler before flipping a Baron 50-50 smite. Of course, the rest is just left to history, Jake.
A quadra kill for Scout. Kitty, this is just a shellacking. 12 and 4, 13,000 gold. We won't get the Cloud Soul at this point as LNG with the Baron are looking to put those finishing touches. This is Baron number 2 as well, and they've already hit 4,500 gold off the Baron Powerblade Kitty, and it's got another minute 15 to go.
And I need to remind the audience that Zika had the hardest time in this top lane 1v1, but look at how well he is flourishing. 326 CS on this Fiora. They are suffocating the base of FPX right now.
Ruthless Predator locking down Grand Challenges there, but remember he has GA, he almost one-shot Phoenix. And the Grand Challenge healing will come through thanks to Tarzan, who launched himself in care with the Realm Warp out of there. And that's the most effective one yet, as Hacker now for his life tries to flash out, but LNG will not let him go. Zika's GA, popped by Lwx, but guess what else is going to get popped? The Heimerdinger. Next up should be Lwx, and then finally it's Care. In for a penny, in for a pound. LNG took the whole damn boat with them. A Scout dies for the final kill, and LNG makes short work of FPX for game number 1.
Scout definitely walking away with a smile after that game 1 performance on this Azir. I mean, just an absolute gap in the damage charts, right? We see the Azir and Fiora doing so much in these team fights. I think LP honestly just had to sit back and not